Hello again, and welcome to day 3 of week 8. We're continuing our way through the Gospel of Luke in chapter 4, verse 31 through 44. Last week, we saw Jesus announce himself as the Messiah, the Christ, the anointed one of God, in his hometown of Nazareth. And we saw the hometown crowd get angry at him and try to kill him. This week, we see where he went next. So, verse 31. He went down to Capernaum, a city in Galilee, and was teaching them on the Sabbath. They were astounded at his teaching because he spoke with authority. In the synagogue there was a man who had the spirit of an unclean demon, and he cried out with a loud voice, "Let us alone! What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be silent and come out of him." When the demon had thrown him down before them, he came out of him without having done him any harm. They were all amazed, and they kept saying to one another, "What kind of utterance is this? For with authority and power he commands the unclean spirits, and out they come." And a report about him began to reach every place in the region. After leaving the synagogue, he entered Simon's house. Now, Simon's mother-in-law was suffering from a high fever, and they asked him about her. Then he stood over her and rebuked the fever, and it left her. Immediately she got up and began to serve them. As the sun was setting, all those who had any who were sick with various kinds of diseases brought them to him, and he laid his hands on each of them and cured them. Demons also came out of many, shouting, "You are the Son of God!" But he rebuked them and would not allow them to speak, because they knew that he was the Messiah. At daybreak he departed and went into a deserted place, and the crowds were looking for him, and when they reached him, they wanted to prevent him from leaving them. But he said to them, "I must proclaim the good news of the kingdom of God to other cities also, for I was sent for this purpose." So he continued proclaiming the message in the synagogues of Judea. So there are a lot of things that we see here, but we have to keep in mind, in Luke's gospel, these are the first miracles that Jesus does. We didn't yet read, but we will eventually, but before he went to Nazareth, he had been in the wilderness, being tempted. We read that. Before he was in the wilderness, he was being baptized, and before that, he was, what Luke shows us before of him was, he was a child. So these are the first actual miracles that Jesus does. And we see him start out by showing his authority over demons and over sicknesses. In both of these things, he shows his power as God. This is why the people are amazed. We can think of this too. We don't usually have a strong experience with evil spirits or even with angels right now. Those sorts of things we tend to think of as distant and removed from our modern age, which doesn't mean we're right, but that's how we tend to think. But when we think about those things, when we watch movies or read books where angels and demons factor into the story, we tend to think of them, spiritual powers, as being stronger than us. Again, we tend to think that way. That doesn't mean we're right. Certainly the people at the time had the same experience. They did have everyday experience with people who were possessed by demons. And there was no good remedy for that. There was no solution. They seemed stuck, trapped, constrained always to be vessels and mouthpieces of evil spirits. But Jesus comes, and with a word, he doesn't do any, fancy waving of his hands. He doesn't set up some sort of ritual. He just speaks to them and he says, "Get out of them. Leave them alone." And they do. This is why the people are amazed, because they've never seen anything like this before. He clearly has authority over the demons, and then he goes and heals just by a word or by laying hands on Peter's mother-in-law, and that too shows again a power, an authority, a mastery of the world and everything in it that we still don't possess. However advanced we are in our technology, however advanced we are in our understanding of the world around us, we still can't speak and the weather changes. We still can't speak and someone who is sick becomes well. That's not how we observe the world to work. Only God has that sort of mastery over everything, because he spoke it into being in the first place. So, there's more to say, more to see. Take a look at the passage. I urge you all, please go over the discussion questions and come up with your own. Talk about it together. But for now, I'll see you all next week. God bless you.